what are trigger nodes inside n8n, what exactly we are using them for, what is the importance, what are the different types of trigger nodes inside n8n. We're gonna cover each and everything with example in this video. This side Arshdeep Singh and you're watching n8n YouTube channel. Well, trigger nodes are the nodes with the help of which we start any kind of workflow inside n8n. And that's what the definition says. Trigger nodes start workflows automatically based on events, schedules, or incoming data. So we have a list of trigger nodes. Based on the scenario, we use different kind of trigger nodes to start with that workflow. And that's why trigger nodes are very important to understand. That is how any kind of workflow is initialized. So we're gonna cover manual trigger. Then there is schedule trigger. We have a webhook trigger, and then we have app event trigger. There are other triggers as well, as you can see in the list, but in this video, we're going to cover the manual, schedule, webhook, and app event triggers with examples. All right, so let's get started with that. I'm on n8n.io, and that's how a workflow looks if you guys aren't aware of it. So this is a workflow, and this is another one. If you'll see in these workflows, there is one thing which is common, is that we have one starting point, and that is the trigger node. So for this workflow, this is a trigger node. Mind one thing, these are the nodes. These are the building blocks of a workflow. To get started, we need to sign in, and if not, we have to sign up with the n8n. If it's first time for you guys, you have to click on get started, and you have to fill up this form where it is saying that you need to have a company email ID, but that's not true. You can use your personal email ID and it is still going to work. You just have to verify it. Once you're done with this, the catch is, like, let me just sign in, and this is my signed in account. Well, this is a paid account, this is not free. So that's how the screen would look like after you sign in. All you have to do is you have to just create workflow. That button would be somewhere in the center if that is the first workflow you have to create. So this is how the canvas looks like. This is where we create the workflows. And for people, those who are using a free account, a free version of this, well, for you guys, there'll be a number here mentioned 1 out of 1,000 or something like that, and a 14 days of free trial. So that's what you're going to get. But the good part is, no matter what you use inside n8n, any kind of node, any kind of workflow you want to build, consisting of hundreds of nodes, everything can be used. No limits in terms of using any kind of node, any kind of service inside the platform for 14 days. After that, well, you have to pay, right? Or you have to use a different email ID. So that is one catch, but for 14 days, it's your tool. Just do whatever you want to do. All right. So let's get started with the add first step. And you can see a list here. Make sure you kind of remember this list, because the next time I'm going to click on this, add the another node, this list would be very different. So the initial list is what triggers this workflow. That's what we're going to cover in this video, particularly about different kind of trigger nodes. So let's just start with the trigger manually, right? And what it does is actually inside this workflow. So imagine currently you're building this workflow, right? It is not anywhere on the production or something. It's not working right now. So while developing a workflow, the best scenario is to have a local trigger, right? Because you don't have any kind of foreign trigger currently. So during development, we have a manual trigger. As the name suggests, whenever you click on this, maybe the test workflow or test workflow here, this thing gets triggered. That's it, right? So if I simply click here, and as you can see, I have a pop-up saying workflow executed successfully based on this thing, right? That's what a manual trigger is. So this is the best thing when you are working inside the n8n tool, but once you are in the production, you need to have some kind of trigger there, right? So that's it. That's what the manual trigger is, but we're going to understand this with an example. So the moment I'm going to click on this add icon, you can see a different kind of list here. So we have subcategories like AI, action in an app, data transformation flow, and so on and so forth. So let me just kind of not click anywhere inside this. Well, we can do action in app, and as you can see, there are more than like 3,000 services. Sorry, not 3,000, 300 different services. Like they have tie-ups with the different companies and brands and services, right? You can see a lot of famous names are also present here, like Facebook, Figma, and Google, Microsoft, everything, Outlook, like you name it. I think you're gonna find it here. I'm not sure if there is Instagram in here. Well, there is no Instagram right now. So there is no Instagram, but yes, For this trigger to work and to understand this, we can have one Gmail. Simply clicking here. And as you can see, the moment I clicked on Gmail, there is list of kind of actions here, right? And and also one more thing. If you see here, there is a trigger category as well. So on message received. Well, we're gonna cover this later on in this video only. Don't worry. So actions, right? It means the moment this workflow gets started, I want to do some kind of action inside my Gmail, and what action it has to be. That's what we can decide. We can pick one from this list, right? So there are different kind of actions, and let's just take send a message. Okay. Uh, I need to have some one Google account connected to make sure this is working fine. And for that to happen, because I already have a list, but I'm gonna create new credentials, and you have to do just simply sign in with Google. That's it. Yeah, there's a list of things which I have to make sure that I approve, and only after that I'm gonna be able to use it, right? So this pop-up will, the moment it closes automatically, that's when your like account is connected, right? Oh, okay, fine. This is connected, and then there are a few things like resources. Well, the way, let's just keep it the way it has to be. So for two, I'm gonna use my email address only. Subject could be something like hello world. Well, okay. Uh, let's just keep it the way. Let's just keep everything the way it is. We can add some message here. Testing. Okay, and let's just simply test this step. So I have something in here output. By the way, this UI. So this is the input. These are the actions you can take, or like the settings you can make sure you can change and update based on any kind of node you're working with. And this is the output. So in output, you have different kind of like ways you can see your output based on the node particularly. But to make sure that this workflow work fine, we can check that on our email. All right, so I got this message with the title of hello world, and obviously testing, and with a small like note that this email was sent automatically with n8n. So I think this is working perfectly fine, and that's what a trigger node is, like a manual trigger. We just simply manually trigger this. If I do this again, and it'll happen again, that's it. Bingo, it happened again, right? So yeah, it's that simple. So for first trigger is very simple to understand. All right, so let's move on to the next trigger, which is also very simple to understand, and it's very easy to work with, and that's what a real life example would look like. So let's just say, it's not practical by the way, but still, let's just say I want to trigger this email, whatever this email was. I want this task to be automated. This email should trigger after every 30 seconds. Let's just take hypothetically, that is what we want. How to do it? With the help of n8n, it can be done with just one trigger. That's it. It's that simple. So let me just delete this trigger and click here on this add button, and you can see this on a schedule, right? Simply click here. There are certain settings which has to be changed. From days, let's just keep it in seconds for timing, and let's just keep it to maybe 10 seconds, right? And let's just hit back here. We have this trigger where it says that it's a schedule trigger, and what it means is I want something to happen, or let's just say I want this workflow to get executed after a certain period of time or interval, I should say. And that's what this schedule trigger will do for us, right? So let me just connect this simply like this. That's how you connect one node to another. And obviously this mark is coming here just because we have certain changes in our workflow. That's it, nothing else. So let me just simply test this workflow. Well, it got executed once, but that's not how you're going to check this. As I told you, this is a real world example, and for that, to make sure that this is working perfectly fine and okay, we have to make sure that this workflow is deployed. How to deploy it? Well, nothing. We just have to toggle this. As simple as that. We simply have to active from inactive. That's the state change we have to make sure we are doing, and that's it. That's how your workflow will get deployed. All right. Yeah, we got it. And as per our workflow, that email should get triggered after every 10 seconds. Let's just see if that is happening or not. Well, we got one here, and probably after 10 seconds we'll get another. It is happening, right? After every 10 seconds, I'm getting one trigger. I'm getting one email, sorry, based on that trigger. All right, my bad. I have selected 100 instead of 10, and that's why I was a little confused that why there is only one trigger after like 10 seconds. Okay, so I think we are pretty much clear with two kinds of triggers, and let's just move on with the next trigger, which is in-app trigger. So to that to take place, we can simply click on app event. Okay, and let's just say I want this trigger to take place based on another email. Let's just say that, right? So let me just click on Gmail, and this time you can see the list. The priority is triggers and the actions is on the second number, but previously that wasn't the case, right? So we have just one trigger here, that is on message received. So let's just say the same account has been already connected thanks to n8n, and there's one parameter which is polling time. That means that after every minute the n8n will check if there is any new email or not, right? So I think that makes sense, right? Simply fetch test event. Let's just do that. And well, there is one problem. It is still active. We have to make sure that this is inactive. That was a fault. Uh, no thanks. And let's just find out what happens, right? Let's just simply connect this and let's just see what happens. So I've already connected this to my account, and let's just simply test this workflow. Okay, so tested the workflow, and based on that test, I can see a new email. But let's just now make sure that this is active and this is working perfectly fine. All right, so now it is active. And to make sure that this trigger takes place, all I have to do is simply make sure the account which is connected to my n8n, from that email ID, I'm making sure that I send one email, right? And I'm sending to myself, that's it. So the moment I've sent my email, let's just see what happens to my inbox. And as you can see, I have another hello world email on my email, right? So I think this is working perfectly fine, and that's what in-app event looks like for you guys. On every active, that consumption will be taking place of your 1,000 free queries which you have. So it will be reduced by one the moment you do anything when your workflow is active, right? Make sure that that is inactive once you're done with the testing, right? Let's just move on to the next trigger, which is webhook trigger. It is kind of amazing, and I guess we don't need any third party kind of stuff for that. So on webhook call, which is option present here, which is on webhook call, runs the flow on receiving an HTTP request. Okay, so we have a test URL. I'm not sure that if this thing is available for a free user or not. I have never tried this on a free version, but I can see a test URL here. And what I want is to simply trigger this workflow the moment I receive any hit on this API, right? On this URL. So any request on this URL means the workflow will get executed. I hope we can make sense out of it, right? So let me just copy this and let's just say listen for this test event. And it is simply listening here. Trust me, this will not going to happen until I make an HTTP request. So for that to happen, let me just open my Postman. Perfect. So let's just have a new request here. It has to be get, and let me just paste the URL and simply, well, should I send right now? Let's just do it. Okay, the moment I click on send, as you can see, our node got executed successfully. So that's what a webhook trigger is. It is generally making sure that your workflow will start the moment you have some kind of HTTP request as your trigger, right? I cannot give you one real example on this. Well, there could be, like, just say you have one application, a standalone big application running. But what you want here is that you want some kind of automated email onto your email ID or whatever email ID whenever there is a hit on a certain URL, right? It could be requesting the page, it could be kind of form submission or anything. It is just that the moment there is one call on that URL, one HTTP request, you want some task to be done automatically. So that's where in those situations we go with the webhook triggers, right? I hope it is making a lot of sense to you guys. I mean, I can simply connect it here and I can show you the example, but we all know that this is going to work, right? So that's it, guys. These are the four triggers which we have covered in this video, and I hope we are sorted with what trigger nodes are, and I hope we can at least start with the workflows, because that's what the trigger nodes are for, right? And meet you in the next video. This is a video series. I'm gonna cover different topics on n8n. This series is for absolute beginners, so open for all the feedback in the comment section, and do share it, do like it if you like my content, right? Meet you in the next video. Until then, happy learning.